Hello again, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well and not too cold at the moment. Um, I just wanted to do a little bit of a January tour of my allotment. There's not all that much going on, and I've not done a video in quite a while because obviously it is winter, um, the quietest time of the year. But there is still quite a few things that I've got going on at the moment, a couple of projects, and of course I've got things that are growing. And it's coming to the end of January now. It's the 21st of January. So I am starting to think about the growing season ahead. There are, I think, a few things that I have sown already, like my onions and my leeks, my sweet peas, and I'm going to be sowing my peppers and chilies very soon as well in a heated propagator at home. Apart from that, there's not really all that much that I'm going to be getting sowing until about March time. March is the busiest time really for sowing. That's when I get most of my things planted. But yeah, as I said, there are things going on, and I just want to give you all a little tour. It's very cold, very frozen. It's about 2, 3 degrees out there, and there's a bit of snow. It's not melted yet because we're under the shade. But yeah, I want to give you a little tour, just discuss what I'm planting or what I'm planning on planting in which beds at the moment. And yeah, what I'm doing. Although it's probably going to end up changing, as I always do. I make a plan, and then when it comes to it, I end up moving them all around anyway, and I end up with, yeah, I only end up following about half of the plan. But yeah, at the moment, I just want to discuss what I'm doing. So I hope you enjoy. Sit back, grab a cup of tea or coffee, and enjoy. Okay, so at the front of my plot, I planted all these daffodils back in autumn time along the front of my plot here, and they've actually started to come up already, a lot of them, because we've had such big swings in temperatures. You know, we had a really mild autumn, so these sprouted straight away almost, and then we had a really big freeze early December, and then it got really mild again, so they continue growing, and now it's snowed again, so yeah, they're coming up. An indicator that spring is near, although it has been very mild, so yeah. So there's this bed at the front of my plot here, which is completely manured over. I've done a big manure spreading this year. I've spread a lot of horse manure over most of my beds actually. But this bed at the front here is where I'm gonna have all my sweet peas. I'm gonna be using these 3 pallet supports here, which I've put this mesh on. They're really good, really strong. I'm just gonna nail them into the ground, hammer into the ground with stakes, and then they'll be growing up these. My sweet peas did really well last year. I was really happy with them. And this year I've got a mixture of 9 different varieties by King's scented varieties. So big selection of different sweet peas. They'll be nice. I've thrown a pear tree in this spot here. See how that gets on. Be a few years before we see any pears on it. But as always, I'm always planning ahead for the future, thinking ahead. We have our apple and plum here, which I've top dressed with some sulphate of potash. Now's the time to do it. High in potassium, so good for all your fruiting plants and trees. This bed here, well, I've stuck loads of manure on this one. This is going to be my pumpkin squash bed. Because pumpkins and squash really like manure, so I've chosen this bed for those this year. Coming over next to it, we have our 2 asparagus beds, which I'm going to be putting some asparagus crowns in very soon actually. I built these out of just cheap pallet wood, nothing special. Just took me a couple of hours to put them together. And yeah, I just need to fill these up. I'm going to use the hugelkultur method, where I use something such as like horse manure, wood chips, logs, partly composted material, probably for the bottom half, and then top it up with topsoil or compost, really. Cheaper method of filling it up. But the reason I'm doing this is because the old asparagus, which are far below here, I can't dig these up yet because the ground's frozen. They rotted because the soil was quite poor draining. So yeah, they'll do much better in raised beds because asparagus like a well-draining soil. They don't like to get waterlogged because the roots are very prone to rotting. And the bed, completely opposite to that, over here. This is going to be a runner bean bed. I've manured this one as well, and yes, I've got bamboo canes. I'm going to grow them up here. Runner beans are one of our favourite vegetables, so we're going to be growing plenty of them this year. This bed right next to our runner bean bed, I'm going to be growing some climbing beans, French beans, instead. So runner beans, French beans, and then next to it we have our completely frozen cabbages. I need to sort all this netting out. The snow has come down on top of it and has proper weighted it down, so I need to sort that out. When it's thawed out, it's completely frozen. I can't even take the netting off. So, but these are our spring cabbages, which have survived the -10 temperatures we had early in December, and they're surviving the frost we're having this week as well. So yeah, they're doing really well then. Hopefully they'll see it through till spring. Anyway, when we end up harvesting these cabbages in spring and taking them out, I'll probably just end up growing more beans in here, to be honest. You know, they're a good veg that you can just pick and, blanch them and freeze them, and they'll last in the freezer. So, ow. So over here we have apple tree. I've decided to plant another one. I'll just put it here for now, throwing it in, and then I'll clear it off and then let it do its thing, and then in the spring. Although it's a completely different story for our kale over here. We seem to have lost them, which I'm quite surprised at actually, because kale are very hardy vegetables. But the cold must have been too much for these, and yeah, they've completely rotten away, which is a shame because we really like kale. But as with everything, it's all trial and error, and nothing always goes to plan. So there's always things that go wrong. So I still need to put some new glass in this door here. I just never seem to get around to doing it, but hopefully I'll have that done by springtime. We have a couple of grapevines in here still, and our fig, and I've horse manured this bed here as well. I'm probably going to be growing aubergines in this one, I think, or probably more tomatoes. We go crazy with tomatoes. So I recently made these two beds here bigger. I've covered this over with tarp. There's a pile of horse manure under there, which I'm just letting break down a little bit under that tarp, and then I'll spread it out over this one. But we have this very big bed here, and this very big bed over here, and these are going to be our beds for onions. I want to grow enough onions to last until the next year, hopefully. We ran out of onions in September, October this year, so yeah, we didn't even have any through the winter. So my plan is to grow enough to last a year. Down the middle we have our herb bed, and it's a bit slippery. We have our herb bed in the middle, which is got chives in, garlic chives. They're starting to come up already, actually. Yeah, we really like our chives. Got a few more buried under there. The oregano goes crazy, as always. I need to chop that back, actually. The rosemary. I think that's got a little bit of root rot. The leaves are going a little bit brown in there. I'll probably need to move that into a different pot, actually. We have our leeks in this bed, which I planted in the autumn, which are growing slowly. I suspect they'll probably bulk out come springtime and then we can pick them. But they're all they seem to be coping quite well with the freezing temperatures. Now in this bed here, next to our herb bed, I planted some elephant garlic right at the beginning of December. Probably a little bit late. I probably should have planted these around September, October time. But I had a nosy last week before it froze over, and the garlic underneath is starting to grow. There is little sprouts on it, so it is growing. But we'll see. I probably should have planted it a little bit earlier. But fingers crossed, they do all right. And nothing new here behind us. We've got our strawberry cage, which I'm going to be filling some more of these holes in, putting more strawberry plants in from the runners that I took this year. So yeah, just filling this out a bit more this year. And then right behind one of our onion beds here, we've got another horse manure bed. All these beds have been horse manured, by the way, for onions and leeks and stuff like that. And I'll be putting some of my homemade compost on top of it as well. But this one here is just going to be for leeks, which I've sown already as well. Yeah, we really like leeks, one of our favourite vegetables. So yeah, leeks, onions, and then onions over there. Flower bed, which runs along one side of my plot here. There's alliums in there, which are coming up. Our alliums were lovely last year. They were like big fireworks. But they're all starting to pop up now. They're not even bothered about the frozen ground that they're in. They're not fussed at all. This year though, I think I'm going to plant. I don't know what I'm going to plant in here yet. I don't know. Maybe wildflowers. I don't know. I did dahlias in here last year, and yeah, they didn't really do well at all. But we do have about 30 to 40 tulip bulbs in this side of the bed. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to those. I'm not too sure if that's the beginning of one of them. Maybe. Yeah, I planted these quite deep. They're about 8 inches deep. So right next to it, on our strawberry, next to our strawberry cage, there is my experimental horse manure bed, which I just topped up with a bit more horse manure. And this year I'm going to grow squash up this, I think. I've had really good results with growing squashes, pumpkins, stuff like that in horse manure. So I think squash. I want to grow more things that you can store throughout the winter, like squashes you can store for several months. So yeah, I want to do something like that on this. And then next to that, there's just another strawberry bed. I just threw some strawberries in there. So nothing new about that. Right along this side of my allotment here, along the fence. It's a work in progress, but I've got black currants, gooseberries, and blackberries, thorns blackberries, which I'm in the process of getting going. But I'm going to be filling this side up with black currants with cuttings, plants that I've grown from cuttings. All these ones along here are all from cuttings, and they're about a year old now, and they're doing really well. I've taken a few more cuttings, which I'm going to fill the rest of this out with. But gooseberries, we don't eat all that many gooseberries, so I'm just going to keep it to what's here. These couple of bushes here. But blackberries, I need to sort some sort of trellis out for this, rather than these bamboo canes which I've got here. And behind that, behind the blackberry, we have our rhubarb and raspberry bed, which they both share the same bed. I've cut all these back, giving them a good trim. Yeah, nothing new about that bed. Now coming over here, we've got our pink Germador garlic, which I planted in September, and it's doing really well. We've lost a couple of them though for some reason. They've either been picked out by mice, by the looks of it. That one has. Something's happened to that. Been pulled out. So we've lost a couple of them. But I planted about 60 garlic cloves, so I'm not too bothered if we lose a few of them. So that'll be nice. They're coping really well. We should get some nice bulbs this year because we've had some quite hard frosts. Early in December, like I said, we had that really big freeze. We went down to about -10, and temperatures didn't really get above freezing for about 10 days straight. So yeah, it was really cold. And during that cold weather, we actually lost all our broad beans. The only thing left of our broad beans is that. So yeah, we lost our broad beans. So I've got more broad bean seeds, and I'm probably going to be planting them in about February, March time. Yeah, when the ground probably isn't going to freeze like this. It's rock solid. So it is what it is. Try again. When I do harvest this garlic and these broad beans, which I'll be redoing, I'm probably just going to stick sweet corn in here, to be honest. Yeah, probably throw sweet corn in there. So this bed over here behind the garlic had our Brussels sprouts in this year, which we ate over Christmas, and they were really nice. We had another really successful year for sprouts. So I've stuck horse manure on it now, and I've stuck a little bit of lime on there, garden lime, which I'm going to dig in. And I'll probably just plant more brassicas in here, to be honest. It's already netted over, so I'll probably plant some cabbages in there or something like that, or yeah, something like that. But moving over from the garlic and the broad bean bed, or which was the broad bean bed, we'll come over to the bed that we grew carrots and parsnips in this year. I don't think there's any parsnips left in there, maybe a few traces. It's there. But I think I'm gonna grow carrots in this one this year because it's very sandy soil, this one. And then I think I'm gonna grow parsnips in this bed. Yeah. We've got all our buckets for our potatoes this year. I've got about 40 of them all filled up, ready to go. Horse manure and reused compost. If you watched my potato disaster video, you'll understand just how much of a disaster it was for some of the potatoes which I grew in the ground. They got obliterated by the wireworm. So yeah, potatoes in buckets this year. Over here we've just got a couple more beds, which I'll probably stick a few leafy salad leaves in or something like that. I don't know, salads, anything that tolerates the shade, because got all these trees over this part of the plot. So yeah, anything that tolerates the shade I'll stick in there. This was our potato bed, but I'm probably just going to lay the buckets on top of this, minus that temporary compost bin there, which is temporary. I'm going to be sticking the buckets on here, I think. So moving over here, we've got our bed which we had leaks in. Whoa, I slipped again. Whoa, oh, it's slippery. Yeah, don't wear Vans at the allotment, guys. My wellies are in the greenhouse, so they're gonna be really cold. So I'm not wearing them. So yeah, our leaks, they've seemed to have been attacked by something. I think there's been mice or rats burrowing in there or something. Did have our red chard in the back here, but it got completely obliterated by the frost. Something's been digging in my compost bin over here. I don't know, probably a rat or a mouse again or something like that. Yeah, I've been giving my compost bins a bit of a kick, making it as noisy as I can for them, because rats don't like noisy places. So I'm hoping to try and evict them if I can. And behind that leak bed there, we have more garlic. This bed is filled with garlic, and these seem to be doing quite well as well. So yeah, I think we're definitely in for some good garlic this year. Last year's was pretty good, but we had quite a mild winter before, so yeah, I think we've had a much colder winter this year. We've had much more frost. So yeah, obviously, um, with the cold weather, you get a better bulb formation with garlic. So uh, that should be good this year. And all around here, it's an absolute mess. Um, yeah, I need to tidy this up. And going into the greenhouse, it's also an absolute mess. So I need to tidy up in here soon. We've got our onions underneath all this fleece and plastic. Because they're only seedlings, I wanted to protect them from the hard frosts, because it did get down to -3.8 in here early this week. That was the minimum temperature in the greenhouse. Bear in mind, that's in the greenhouse. So I don't even know what it got to outside. Probably -5, -6. I don't know. But yeah, they seem to be doing all right under here anyway. Because they're so small, I wanted to protect them because, yeah, onions are hardy and they will tolerate frost, but because they're only little seedlings, and then also as an extra precaution, I covered over all the sweet peas which are sown. The seeds are just lying dormant in these pots, to be honest, because I actually sowed them the day before the cold weather hit, so they haven't even had time to sprout and germinate. So they're just going to sit in these trays till we get a thaw around next week, I think. We have many strawberry plants. We have some here, but we also have some over here as well, which we're going to be planting more of, filling up the strawberry cage with. We've got a new blueberry bush which I need to plant up, and that peach tree there, which I got last year, seems to be doing all right. It's what's it called? I can't remember. It's a purple leafed one. It's quite an interesting one. It's a dwarf variety. I can't remember the name of it. It's yeah, it's called Crimson Bonfire. So yeah, that seems to be doing really well over there. It's just chilling, just waiting for spring to come. Yeah, we'll leave this now. I do need to really tidy up there. I don't think there's many people that have a completely spotless greenhouse. I think we're all the same. We all get messy with our greenhouse at some point. And the same can be said for the shed. I'm not even going to go in there. That's quite messy. I need to tidy up in there as well. I tried overwintering some pepper plants in here, and I made a video on it. But unfortunately, we lost them. The frost penetrated the shed, and yeah, they stood no chance against the frost. Now, in most cases, if I had the space at home, I could have kept them at home and they would have been frost free, and then I could have moved them back down here in sort of March, April time into the greenhouse, and they probably would have been okay. But because we had such a hard frosts early in December, yeah, the shed just wasn't enough to keep the frost away. Even when I'd covered them in fleece in the shed as well. So despite the shelter from the trees and the fact that we're inside a shed covered in fleece, they still were frozen solid. So yeah, the peppers, I wasn't able to overwinter them this year, but I think the best thing to do really is keep them in a frost-free garage or a spare room at home, or yeah, under a normal British winter, which is usually mild, you'd probably be able to keep them in the shed. But yeah, we're having some cold weather this year, so. And also, it wasn't just the peppers that we lost. We lost quite a lot of succulents as well. I was using my greenhouse to store our collection of succulents, since we don't really have any room at home. But we ended up losing about 75% of them in the cold weather in December, so that was annoying. I think I'm just going to use the allotment to grow fruit and veg, and a few flowers, rather than trying to store all these different succulents. So yeah. The polytunnel, our banana plant, it is a hardy Japanese banana, so I think it should be alright. But they only tolerate temperatures down to -7. Any lower than that for a long period of time, and the root rhizomes inside can become damaged. It's actually frozen now again, but I think early December there is a possibility that we've lost it. But fingers crossed it comes back. It can be, I may be surprised. They may come back, so we will see. But in here we have a lot of strawberries, quite a few. I've got 4 baskets up there, which gave us loads of strawberries last year in May, so that was brilliant. We've got more garlic at the back there, which I've put in here. We'll see if growing them in the greenhouse, I'll see if growing them in the polytunnel helps keep the rust away. Now, we did have a bit of problem with rust with the outdoor garlic last year, but we'll see how they're doing here. Now, I don't think growing them in the polytunnel is going to matter with bulb formation because it's frozen in here as well. So they've had a good bit of cold weather as well in here. So yeah, our strawberries, I've got a few more here. Yeah, it's a really good idea to grow a few strawberries in a greenhouse or polytunnel because you do get them a good month or so earlier than outdoor ones. So yeah, I'm growing a few of those. This was our pepper bed last year. Peppers didn't do all that great. We only got green peppers, and we got them in September, October. So not the best year for peppers, but I've horse manured it, and I'm gonna fill this with tomatoes this year. I'm only going to grow a handful of pepper plants this year, I think, because tomatoes seem to be our favourite thing. We had an amazing year for tomatoes last year, and I'd like to grow quite a few different heritage types, so I'm going to allow for plenty of space this year for that, I think. So I'll probably end up growing a lot of tomatoes in this bed as well. Again, horse manured. Yeah, I like to use a lot of horse manure. I might make a video explaining why. There's plenty of benefits about using horse manure. Though I did write an article about it, if you'd like to view that, I'll put the link in the description below. Yeah, there are pros and cons, so yeah, if you'd like to give that a read, give it a read. And also in the polytunnel, we have our Worm City wormery, which seems to be doing alright actually, considering it's been really cold. The worms have slowed down, and they're not really doing as much, but they have survived. During the hard frost early in December, I thought they'd completely died off because the entire wormery was just a frozen block, and there was like a big clump of worms in the sump tray at the bottom there. But that clump of worms survived, so yeah, they seem to be thriving still. It's not frozen here. The worms are still alive. They look dead, but they are still moving. You just slow down when it gets cold. I actually made a video about starting a wormery. Check that out. I might put a link in the description below. Explains everything you need to know as a beginner for starting a wormery. So hopefully this will provide us with some good worm castings this year. There is a couple of trays in here. This one here, underneath this layer, there is finished vermicompost. So actually a few worm eggs there. That's good. They're thriving. Yeah, a brilliant way of using your kitchen waste in the garden. Okay, so I think that is just about it, really. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else. I always end up missing something because the plot's so big. But yeah, everything's frozen over, covered in ice and snow. I think I know where I'm planting everything this year. I'll probably end up moving things around as I always do. Yeah, there's plenty of things that I need to be getting on with. I need to wood chip the paths as well. That's another job I need to do actually. February, March, I need to get hold of some more wood chip and wood chip the paths. Starting to go a little bit soggy now. So I'm going to get out of here. It's freezing cold. It's about 2 degrees now, so another frost tonight as well. I think it's saying -2 on the weather app. So another couple of cold nights coming up, and I think it's supposed to get milder next week. So that's when I'm going to start doing my asparagus beds, which I may make a video on as well. I've got a selection of different asparaguses, which I'm going to be planting in them beds. That'll be nice. Well worth the wait. I think it will take about 3 years before we see any asparagus from them. But yeah, as I said, I am in it for the long run, and I like to plan ahead and think about things in the future. So I hope you enjoyed my little allotment tour. Not the most exciting because it is the middle of winter and everything's covered in snow. It's freezing cold. But yeah, hope to see you in more videos later this year when things start getting going in March onwards. Yeah, there's plenty of video ideas which I have, which I want to make this year. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll be a good growing season. So if you like the video, then remember to hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, then consider subscribing to my channel so you can see when I upload more content just like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you all stay safe and keep on gardening.